Hi, my name is Steve Petrachik for Seattle Avionics. I'm going to give you a quick overview of FlyQ Online, our web-based planner for Mac and PC. First, lay of the land. Running inside a Mac. It works equally well, of course, on the PC. At the top of the screen, there's a bar that lets you type in idents for airports, nav aids, and so on to see more information. You can also type an entire flight plan there if you like. On the right-hand side of that bar is an area with a gear. You use that to get to various settings and so on. You see my name listed there. If I wasn't logged in right now, you'd see a button that says login and another one that says create a new account. And then there's a question mark that tells you, well, if you click on it, I'll do that right now. It tells you what version number you're using and gives you a lot of different videos like this one that you can watch to learn more about it and so on. The main part of the screen, though, is essentially split into two different sections. On the left-hand side is a bar that has buttons for airports, weather, fuel, plans, documents, or in this case, search results. On the right-hand side is an area that has currently one tab. It says map. Typically a map is there. When you show an approach plate or an airport diagram, that also goes there. The two areas you can move, you can resize them like this to get more or less space, whatever works for you, and so on. Let's talk about just some of the key areas. This is going to be a quick overview video. There are a number of other videos that go into more detail on weather, on flight planning, document management, airport information, and so on. So I'm just going to cover things fairly quickly. Let's say that you want to find out airport information. By default, the system automatically will find all the airports that are near you and zoom the map to that point. If you were to move the map somewhere else, like I'm doing right now, and you want to reset that, there's a button at the top that looks like a crosshair. Tap that, and you see it's a list of airports in the area, and the map recenters itself to where you currently are. If you want to find information about a particular airport nearby, you can scroll down the list. For example, my home airport, KPAE, is listed over here. You see a lot of information about it at a glance. You know, since it's a blue airport, it has a control tower. You see what the runway configuration looks like. On the other hand, the airport below it, Sky Harbor, S86, is a magenta icon, meaning it's an uncontrolled airport. For every airport, there's a series of buttons below there. On the left-hand side, there's a button that will zoom the map to that point. For example, if I click on that, the map zooms to that airport. There's another button that looks like a weather cloud. If you click that, it immediately jumps to the weather at that airport. If you want to see fuel prices near KPAE, you click the button that looks like fuel, and it'll pull up all the fuel that's in the vicinity. If there's an airport that you want to find more information about that isn't listed here, you can type it up at the top. For example, if I were flying to Miami, I could type MIA right here, hit the enter button on my keyboard. It shows me Miami. And if I want to know more information about this airport or any other one, instead of clicking any of the four little buttons on the bottom, I just click someplace in the big area for Miami. It immediately shows me the relevant information to the airport, elevation, pattern altitude, and so on. For most airports, it'll show you a satellite image. For about 700 airports that the FAA has provided airport diagrams for, like Miami, it will show you an FAA diagram. And then for airports that don't have an FAA diagram, Seattle Avionics created about 4,700 diagrams. I'll click on one of those so you can see what that looks like. Very detailed diagram. Also, unlike the FAA diagrams, the Seattle Avionics diagrams tell you where the restaurants, the fuel stops are, the FBOs, and so on, all at the bottom of the screen. Very handy. Additional airport information, you see the COM, the runways, and so on. You can click, there's a series of sub-tabs for every airport. You can click on weather to see your TAFs, your METARs, satellite imagery, and so on, winds aloft. Procedures, of course, will list all your procedures for you, which you can just tap on to see any of them. Very clear. These are the original FAA documents. You can take a look at your AFD. If there are any NOTAMs for the airport, you can see that. And you can see other services. So a lot of stuff there, very easy to do. Let's talk about the map, though. On the right-hand side, I'm going to switch back to the map and just show you how you can manipulate what's on the screen. First, there's a series of zoom buttons, a plus and a minus, in the lower right corner. I'm going to click that a couple of times to zoom the map out. As you can see, the map refreshes very, very quickly. Right now, we're overlaying radar and TFRs. The TFRs are the red, and there's a couple of yellow dots. Yellow TFRs means that they aren't active yet but will be soon. The red ones mean that they are active right now. If I want to change which map layers are on the screen, I won't go into all of them. We have an entire video on them. But tap the button, it looks like a stack of papers. You can change the base map from sectional, IFR low, IFR high. You can even use aerial photography maps, road maps, or terrain maps, all very easy to do. You can overlay other things on there as well, like fuel prices, TFRs. If you fly helicopters, helicopter overlays are available. But there's a huge number, most of the map layers though are related to weather. We have an entire video on this, so I won't go into a lot of detail here. But you can see things like radar animated, like this, as well as a static radar. Takes it a second for the animated radar to load. Here it goes. You can look at satellite cover. You can load in METARs and TAFs, color-coded. Green means VFR conditions. Red means IFR, yellow in the middle or marginal VFR. Ceilings, visibility, sky conditions. There's a lot more things on here than what you see in FlyQ EFB, for example. Surface winds you can have. It tells you which direction the surface winds are going. You can have as many or as few layers as you like, so I can remove those. Winds aloft is pretty cool, though. I'll just show you that very briefly. When you tap on winds aloft, you see color-coded arrows, red meaning strong winds, orange meaning medium, and light winds are green. But of course, winds aloft depends on the time and the altitude. So for the altitude, we have an altitude slider on the side. Right now, this is showing winds aloft at 6,000 feet. I can switch it to maybe 12,000 feet. And you see that the arrows generally get darker, become more red. 30,000 feet maybe, 39,000 feet, 9,000, whatever you like. So a very, very easy way to see winds aloft to different altitudes. So that gives you a good sense of what you can do in terms of the map layers and so on. Quick overview of flight planning. Flight planning can be done two different ways. There's a whole plans tab here, I'll show you in a second, but the way that most people do it quickly is to simply use a search box. So if I wanted to go from my home airport, PAE, and I want to go to, say, San Francisco, notice that it pre-filled in things that the web browser remembers I've typed in before. So it added this V at the end. The V means planet on Victors. You don't have to type that stuff in. If you go just PAE SFO, it'll simply plan you a flight on your default routing method from Painfield to San Francisco. We do, though, have a number of shortcut buttons, which we'll talk about in the flight planning video, that lets you specify Victor Airways, Jet Airways, GPS direct routing, terrain avoidance, fuel prices, and so on. I'm just going to go with SFO as my destination. Hit the return key on my keyboard. The system will plan the flight for me. While it's planning it, the system's live, so I'm getting rid of the overlays on the screen here. All right, so after a couple of seconds, the flight plan is here for me. Notice I've got my entire navlog on the left-hand side of the screen. I see my magenta line on the right-hand side on the map showing me where I'm flying. I still have all my same map layers. Of course, I can move the map around. Also notice, unlike about every other flight planning tool on the web I can think of, there's a profile view down the bottom of the screen. The yellow line shows us where our flight plan is. So it looks like the system automatically planned, and I can look at this. It looks like it planned a fuel stop automatically at SO3. Okay, it did that, by the way. The fuel planning is based on fuel prices. So it must have thought that that's a very inexpensive place to get fuel. The black arrows on the profile view tell you where the MEAs for Victor airports are. So clearly we are above the MEAs. And then you see the airspace markers. So it looks like we're taking off, we're going through Class B airspace, and then going on, taking a flight all the way to San Francisco, and obviously, since we're landing in Class B airspace, re-entering it later. There's a timeline across the middle here. Again, I'll talk more about this a little bit later. If you look closely, there's a green section to the timeline. If I move my slider to someplace in the green section, like this, you see where the aircraft is going to be at, say, right now I'm pointing to 1:30. At about 1:30, it looks like if we take off around noon or so today, we'll be somewhere in Oregon. You can see that both on the map on top and on the 3D profile view at the bottom. You can just move that timeline to any place you like, move it left and right. It's kind of fun to watch, and so on. One more thing to do with this. If you're flying to a place that you've never been to before, and you really want to take a look at what it's like, what the terrain is like, what the airports look like, and so on, there is simply no better way of doing that than using Google Earth. So I'm going to pick the share option
called download. Let's check this out. I'm going to click here. I'm going to double tap on my KML file, flying from the Painfield in Seattle down to California. Here's our flight plan. Now, this is not just a line. This isn't just a simple little two-dimensional line. You can see the hoops that you fly through. You see the cities that you go to, and so on. Okay, so you have this great opportunity to actually visualize your flight, but actually literally looking at the area that you're about to fly over. By the way, you can zoom in particular spots. Like if I want to see what Portland looks like, I can double tap here. And Google Earth automatically brings you to Portland. So here we are. Here's the Portland airport from space. And there's our flight plan flying directly over it.
Okay, so that's a little bit of an overview of the product. You can create flight plans in a lot of different ways. The flight planning video goes into more detail about adding points, rubber banding points, adding them, deleting them, and so on. There's another one that goes into more detail on airport information, and another one that goes into quite a bit of information on all these weather layers. I invite you to explore all these videos. For Seattle Avionics, I'm Steve Pedrachik. Have a great day.